What's going on, guys? This is the Red Rogue, and today is another doozy of an episode, being that it's a Wednesday. Of course, I'm working on this as the beta patch notes and server came up for the latest build, and wow. Blizzard really took the hammer down on almost every frickin' rogue legendary, apparently. So, yeah, let's assess the damage on all of this. So the theoretical tuning wave has crashed down upon rogue legendaries, and while this might sound like terrible news, there are several things to keep in mind. There is still a lot of time left with the Shadowlands beta due to the delay they put on it, meaning for basically the first time since I've been on beta, rogues have received a really large tuning wave prior to some other classes, meaning there is time to adjust things before launch. Also, and thankfully they were quick to bring this up, Blizzard has already stated they aimed a bit too low for the tuning of legendary items, and expect to see some changes to them in an upcoming build. So don't freak out too much, and let's hope they realize how much was too much for nerfs on several of these abilities. Now that we've got those little bits of precaution out of the way, let's examine the changes that we'll be working with until any buffs are done to our legendaries. I'll be putting timestamps in a comment for each group of legendaries, so if you're interested in a certain spec, then just skip to there if you want to know about that specific thing. We'll start with Outlaw, as it had all 4 of its legendaries affected, and I'm kinda biased. Up first, we have Celerity. Celerity makes your Adrenaline Rush increase all damage dealt, and while Slice and Dice is active, you have a chance to gain the Adrenaline Rush effect for a short duration. Originally, this was a 15% damage buff anytime you had Adrenaline Rush active, and it would randomly proc the short version for 4 seconds. This has been dropped to a 5% damage increase and only 3 seconds of the buff. This, unfortunately, was one of our 2 strongest options, so this is a pretty hefty nerf prior to any future changes. Up next, we have Concealed Blunderbuss, which makes it so that when your Sinister Strike procs an extra hit, there is a chance your next pistol shot will fire extra pistol shots. This originally was a 33% chance and would fire 3 additional times, but this has been reduced to a 30% chance and only fires 2 additional times. This was by no means a terribly strong legendary even prior to this nerf, as the extra pistol shot hits do not benefit from quick draw or the opportunity proc, so seeing this was somewhat surprising. Greenskin's Wickers got knocked down a bit as well. This is pretty much the same idea as the Deadshot Azurite trait, though with a slight catch. Between the Eyes has a 20% chance per combo point to increase the damage of your next pistol shot. Originally, this value was 200%, and it is now dropped to 120%. This of course will stack with the quick draw and opportunity procs, so it does play literally identical to what we're used to in BFA. However, this was not exactly a powerhouse of a legendary even prior to this nerf. Lastly, and unfortunately worst of all opinion of nerfs, Guile Charm. Yep, my Bandit's Guile effect has been gutted pretty good. This legendary caused your Sinister Strike hits to trigger a ramping damage bonus that lasted for 15 seconds, and every 4 Sinister Strike hits would cause it to advance to the next level in the damage ramp up. Originally, it had increments of 10% damage increases up to a maximum of 30%. However, now it is a maximum of 8% damage, and the buff only lasts for 10 seconds. This is a massive drop in power, and honestly is the one I'm most disappointed in, as it was an iconic combat rogue passive in prior years, and it was so cool to have it back again. Simming of legendaries isn't entirely available with all these changes yet, however I'll be very disappointed if this is no longer a strong option, as it was by far my favorite of all 4 Outlaw legendaries. Up next we have Assassination, because it hasn't gotten much attention as of lately on the beta. Though I kinda wish that attention wasn't in the vein of nerfing their legendaries. Anyways, up first we have the Dashing Scoundrel legendary. This one made your Envenom debuff also increase the critical strike chance of your poisons, and made poison critical hits generate energy for you. Prior to the nerf, it was a 30% increased poison crit chance, and 2 energy per critical hit. Now, however, it is a mere 8% critical chance gain, and only 1 energy per crit. This was by and far the strongest legendary for Assassination, which honestly has been left really undertuned feeling in comparison to both Outlaw and Subtlety. So this is really a shame to see, even though this legendary was performing far higher than its alternatives for Assassination. We also saw a nerf to the Zoldyck Insignia. Oh sorry, I meant the Zoldyck Famille Training Shackles. Yeah, I don't know how that typo got by them, but yeah, apparently Famille is important, guys. This causes your poisons and bleeds to deal extra damage to targets below 30% health, effectively giving a sort of execute damage bonus to Assassination. Originally, this was a 30% damage bonus, but it has been reduced down to 20. This legendary was, and probably still is, one of the better multi-target options, though as a side note, I do feel Assassination could have done with an AoE legendary of some variety, as that is something very lacking in the toolkit at the moment. Okay, so now we're on to Subtlety. This will probably sound like deja vu, but yeah, Akari's Soul Fragment got nerfed again. This legendary causes your Shadow Strikes and Cheap Shots to trigger a Shadow Strike 2 seconds after the hit. Even after its nerf, this was the best single target legendary for Subtlety, so it has been tuned down yet again. The extra Shadow Strike has been reduced from 50% damage as Shadow down to 15% of normal damage. This means it will no longer benefit from the Deeper Dagger's Conduit, which actually makes this nerf even larger than it already looks. Deathly Shadows has also received a nerf. This legendary made it so when you vanish, you would be given 5 combo points and a 15% damage buff for 10 seconds. This was one of the smaller nerfs so far, merely changing the 10-second duration down to 8 seconds, though this legendary was never exactly an exceptionally powerful option prior to this tuning anyhow. Lastly, and this is one I'm not quite sure how to think about, but the Rotten has been changed as well. I believe this is actually going to be a buff, though I'll be doing testing on a bunch of these to see for sure. For 3 seconds after activating Symbols of Death, your Shadow Strike, Gloom Blade, and Backstab generate 3 additional combo points. Originally, this was only a 2-second long buff and generated 4 combo points, which would cause some overpooling with Shadow Strike already generating 2 combo points inherently. So the extra second added to the duration of the buff should allow to get another finisher in between 2 Shadow Strikes. Oh, and don't worry, I didn't forget the generic legendaries either, as there were changes to several of those as well. I'm sure some folks will be disappointed with this next change. Invigorating Shadow Dust. Vanish reduces the remaining cooldown of your other abilities by 10 seconds. Previously, it was 15 seconds. This has never been a strong legendary in terms of raw DPS output, however for utility it had a lot of potential, especially when using the Sepsis Covenant ability. 10 seconds is still a pretty large amount of time to shave off our cooldowns, as most of our utility-oriented things have pretty short cooldowns anyhow. And I saved this one for last because this is probably one of the most ridiculous changes I've seen so far. Mark of the Master Assassin now only gives you the 100% crit bonus for a whopping 2 seconds, down from the original amount of 5 seconds. Yeah, 2 seconds. This is honestly really disappointing to see, as this was one of the only legendaries I really didn't expect them to even consider touching, as the 5-second duration was exactly how it was in Legion as well. This legendary definitely sees the most benefit of use in something like Mythic Plus, where you're able to re-stealth very often, but if they're tuning this legendary around only Mythic Plus, then I don't know, it seems really excessive. 2 seconds? I mean, come on guys, that's not a whole lot of time. So there you have it folks. This is quite literally every legendary change we've seen in the most recent beta build for Rogues. And there were several kinda big Covenant changes as well, though that's a topic for another video. I hope this information helps keep you in the loop on all the changes going on in beta, and like I mentioned earlier, don't freak out over them just yet. Blizzard has already very openly admitted they overly nerfed some effects, so it's possible a lot of these will be tuned back up, and if so, you know I'll be making a video as soon as possible when that information is available to us. I hope this look into the legendary tuning status of rogues on the Shadowlands beta was interesting to you. If you're new around to my little corner of the YouTube algorithm, I'd like to welcome you to come check out the rest of the channel. I do new uploads every weekday on a variety of content, with plenty of rogue-specific stuff to go around. I'd also like to take a brief moment to thank all of my regular viewers, commenters, subscribers, and especially my patrons for helping make these Shiba Shenanigans possible. Thank you all so much for watching. This is the Red Rogue, and I'll see you guys around.